Hello, everyone. I'm Anumani, and I'm your modern day shaman and the best-selling author of Unmasking Your Soul, a transformational journey of truth, light, and healing. And today I'm honored to have a special guest, Dawn Mahan, who's my dear soul sister on our show. Hello, Dawn. And she's joining us from Dallas today. And before we get started, I'm just going to read her bio. So Dawn's a dynamic speaker, an acknowledged coach and mentor, and a PMI certified leader with extensive global experience. She was named the 2014 Professional of the Year Consulting Project Management by Strathmore Who's Who Worldwide, and she's a member of the Greater Philadelphia Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. She's the American Lung Association Philadelphia Leadership Board Chair, and her background includes Fortune 50 leader, IT consultant, mathematics, biostatistics, and actuarial science. Welcome, Dawn.
Hi.
So thank you. Yeah, thank you for being on the segment. I love that we're coming on together since we have a long history together in corporate and then in other areas, and wanted to get the audience an opportunity to get to know you a little bit better. And I always like to start with the question around soul, since that's what I'm all about, is helping people connect more with that part of themselves. So when you think about soul, what does that mean to you?
Well, to me, it's the essence of a person that makes them unique, and that, if you believe in this, lives, across lifetimes. And my most vivid example of that, before I really thought about in depth about, soul lifetimes and so forth, was when I met a family friend for the first time who was bedridden, and she had a disease where her body was basically like her bones had turned to mush. So she had this little body, and it had failed her, and she was bedridden. And her spirit was so big. It was so profound, this little person in pain whose spirit was amazing. And she was just the coolest woman ever. So when I met her, I thought, okay, you are not your body. When people say you are not your body, I think about her and I think, oh, she is so not her body. This woman is strong. Her body, was so weak at that point. So yeah, that was the most vivid example for me.
And you're reminding me of a friend of mine who has multiple sclerosis, and she is at a place where her body's pretty much paralyzed. And I went to see her a couple of years ago, and this was when I was still writing my book. And her body has also failed her because she can't move anymore. But oh my God, there was this beautiful essence that she was exuding. And at the time she was still able to speak a little bit. And I told her that I was writing my book, and she asked me what it was about. And when I told her that it was really about unmasking and being more of who we are, and she said to me, it's time for you to really just surrender and to just be you, who you are. And I just felt that there was this deeper part of her that was speaking to me in that moment, exactly what I needed to hear to let go and surrender to a deeper level that I was being asked to. So that's beautiful. I love your story because it resonates with me as well. And I know, you always weren't in this place, and this show really is about helping people start to unmask themselves and understand more about that deeper part. So can you tell our audience more about your journey of unmasking and how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, the particular mask that's been difficult for me, and has been recurring, because I do believe now, that we just keep getting the same challenge over and over until we can conquer it. So the one for me has been the victim.
Hmm.
So I even, I have to catch myself when I feel myself slipping into the victim mentality, or, some level of depression, that is definitely connected to the victim mask. So through, all these challenges since, I was from 2 to 30 to now, in my 40s, right? The damn victim energy, like it has come up many times. So that one's been tough, but through, thankfully, I've been very fortunate with some very strong, amazing family members and friends like you, and help along the way from doctors and acupuncturists and modern day shamans. There's been a lot of work there, and I really feel like the hardest work in life is on yourself. I mean, we've done a lot of hard work all over the world, right? For corporate and everything. And writing a book is really hard. I'm writing a book. I know it's really hard, but the hardest work is looking yourself in the mirror and giving yourself a talking to once in a while. You know.
So I'm sure there's people out there, because that was one of the masks for me as well, being in that victim energy, and having been in a difficult marriage that was verbally abusive, and recognizing that pattern in even my career, with family members, a lot of healing that I had to do. So can you describe for people, what they need to look for when you're in that victim energy? What does it feel like? What does it look like? So that people can start to be more aware and pay attention to what's happening, in their life.
That's a great question. Well, and the first thing is, it might not be the victim that you feel like, it may be, some other recurring theme that happens. And the first step is always to just acknowledge that it's a recurring theme. And if you hear yourself saying something like, why does this always happen to me? Like, again, why? This has to stop. If if you find yourself saying that, then that's like should be a trigger to say, okay, what's really happening here, and you have the power, and know that you have the power to stop it. You're not a victim to that either, whatever it is, whether it's the victim or something else. You have the power to change it and to ask for help. So for me, the victim, it lands me in this depressive state. So I start to feel, depressed. I don't want to interact like I normally would with people. I struggle. It feels like I'm walking through mud, all this sort of normal signs of depression or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then, and I just feel really bad about myself. So I'm sure that goes with, a lot of the different masks that you talk about on your show. They're there to be unmasked. Yeah, we have to learn. It's a learned thing. It doesn't magically happen, just one day it just removes itself. That's not how it works, sadly.
Yeah, so really good point about triggers that I want to mention is that I tell people that all the people in your life are really there for a reason, and they're mirrors to you as you are mirrors to them. And let's say you're having a conversation, it could be at work, it could be at home, and all of a sudden somebody says something that makes you feel angry, or that makes you feel bad about yourself, that is a form of a trigger that our body and our soul is using to get our attention. That means there's a part of you that needs to be loved back into being. That's my favorite phrase now. It's like taking the parts of you that have not felt whole, that have maybe felt unloved or judged or criticized, and you start to bring those parts of you back into a place of love. And there's different things that you can do to do that. But you reminded me that we're always triggered in life, right? Especially by the people closest to us. It could be your spouse, it could be your parents, a brother, a sister, or even a boss at work. And part of our work, as you said, is to pay attention to those things and to start doing something about, understanding why you're being triggered and then doing the work to then release that.
Yeah, it's hard work.
It is. So was there a pivotal moment for you, Dawn, where you knew, so this mask that you talk about of being the victim, the other side of that I talk about in my book is the separateness, right? The separateness from that soul part that you talked about, and whatever you believe in, if it's the universe, if it's a higher power or God. But when we feel separated that way, we drop into this place of feeling like a victim. So was there a particular moment, situation that kind of catapulted you to say, okay, enough, enough is enough? And it reminds me of Jennifer Lopez, in that movie, like, enough, like, I'm not going to take this anymore. So was there a particular moment that opened the doorway for you to say, okay, I need to change this?
I wasn't as conscious about it at the time, but in preparing for this, I have to say there was a pivotal moment, even though I didn't know it at the moment that it was happening. In 2008, excuse me, in 2008 in the summer, I was walking to work, and I loved my walk to work. It was 4 whole blocks. Right past Independence Hall and the Liberty Bell in Philadelphia. And to me, that was the most magical way to start a hard work day that there could possibly be. I felt so fortunate to be there. And I'm not even kidding you, I was walking to work with my coffee in my hand, and I got this phone call from a friend of mine that, despite my name being Dawn, knows I'm not a morning person. And he said, hey, listen, did you hear the news? And I said, what news? And he said, well, I figured, and before you walk into work this morning, I want you to know the storm that you'll be walking into. And I said, okay. And he said, congratulations, you now work for the biggest chemical company in the entire world. And I said, what? So, the Fortune 500 company I was working for was being bought by a Fortune 50 company. And I thought, I could have gone straight into that victim energy again. Like, oh no, what just happened to me? I obviously don't have anything to do with this happening. And it was a giant secret, only at the top levels. Mm-hmm. But what ended up, happening over the course of the next year was I did a lot of, I talked to a lot of people, and I decided it was time to, start my own business. So that changed my life, that phone call, that warning, and the whole situation.
Well, that's a really great catalyst for all of us, right? That sometimes things happen that are not in our control, and it's part of the plan to help catapult us to a different place. And I know you've worked with many different companies, and I've been part of that, fortunately to work with you in that way. So can you talk about some of the work you're doing today and how that moment, changed your life.
Yeah, well, you're right. We've done a lot of fascinating work, I think, working with a lot of amazing clients. And we continue to do that. Now we're shifting focus into doing that virtually, so that we can reach more folks and serve them at the time and in the time zone that they need. So, taking on all the great work we've been doing since 2009 and bringing it into what I'm calling a virtual human hybrid approach to training and coaching for projects. So helping organizations get their projects done right the first time with people who already have full-time jobs and don't have a lot of time to go out to training while work piles up on their desk. And just they've told us when we work with them in person, just tell me what to do and I'll do it, but tell me when I need to do it and help me make sure that I'm doing it right, because there's a lot of nervousness. Everybody's under a microscope. They feel that way. They are. And we want to help them, get the results they need and with a lot less stress. So that's, we're calling it the driving coach. Just like, you wouldn't send your teenager out in your dream car without, proper training in the classroom and a driving coach with a special car. I don't think it's fair to people to give them the keys to a project that's important and not the right support. So we're here to support folks, in organizations that are ready to do that.
And so for people who don't know about project management, can you talk a little bit about, paint a picture of why this is so important, right? And we see it across many organizations who are trying to get so much done with a limited amount of resources. So talk a little bit more about, what that looks like and how, using something like what you're creating is going to help them.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for that. So to me, the easiest way to describe project management is that it's just the art and the science of getting stuff done. So there is a science to it, to getting stuff done. There are lots of different methodologies people might have heard of, Six Sigma, the Project Management Institute's methods, Agile now, in IT, and bleeding thankfully into other areas of the world beyond IT. So there are lots of, different methodologies out there, but really, project management overall is the art and science of getting stuff done. So when people are not given any tools to do the job right, then they really struggle and they get frustrated and stressed out. And, there's enough stress in the world. So our idea is that, we partner with an organization to help them get the right projects done. So first of all, you have to select the right project to begin with. Is that the right thing to spend your resources on? Your money, your people's time, et cetera. Is it the right thing? Make sure in the overall scheme of things, it's the correct thing to do, and then do it right. And with our support, we'll be able to help them, do that, all of that whole process, selecting the right project and doing it right. Yeah.
So having worked with so many different companies and Fortune 50, Fortune 500, and the clients you're seeing now, I'm sure you see a lot of masks being worn, and specifically thinking about, the project management world. What are some of the areas where you see people wearing masks in that type of industry?
Well, there are three that I want to bring up. The biggest one, the first one that came to mind for me was misplaced confidence.
Mm.
So this is like, the teenager who's watched their parent drive for 16 years and jumps in the car and thinks it's easy because their parent made it look easy, right? Mm-hmm. And great project managers make project management look so easy that people go, well, what are they even doing? Like, that's part of the magic, right? So there's a lot of misplaced confidence that happens. People who are successful and have been amazing at, running divisions of businesses, doing their, whatever it is that they're great at, finance, HR, whatever these things, they're handed the keys to run a project. They may have some misplaced confidence there, and they will be handed, situations that are tough. And it's just not fair to, do that. And some people figure it out, and that's fine. But there's generally a couple, crashes along the way, and that happens. So misplaced confidence is definitely one I see many times. And another one is fear. So the mask of fear in corporate America and all over is really detrimental. I really like to believe that these people, in the way that they're acting, don't even know that they're acting from a place of fear, because that would help me accept their actions better. I've seen people who I really truly believed, after working with them for years, that they had a strong moral compass, right? And then some situation happens and they get in this place of fear about losing their jobs, fear about a bad reputation at work, fear about, not looking the way that they want to be perceived by some executives, et cetera. And they come at you with a knife in the front even. You're like, what is this? It's no good. And then some people come, with the knife in the back because they're threatened, they feel threatened, and that's just fear by some, super up and coming person, that's maybe a millennial who's a superstar, and they, come at them and stab them in the back and, ruin their careers. I mean, it's terrible. So fear is a major mask that's really detrimental. We're all supposed to be on the same team,
Yes.
And people forget that because they get worried, they're fearful. And then the third one's a little bit more fun. And it's the mask of seriousness. Like, there was this one executive that I worked with who, one of his best leadership qualities was his sense of humor. I mean, he could just get everybody in a room to laugh just, by having a one-line zinger. And when he would do that, it was awesome. He had so much power to attract people to, whatever it is he needed to get done. And I think he really had a hard time, maybe because of some fear, level of acting the right way or in that culture or whatever. But if he would have used that humor more instead of putting that mask of serious corporate person on, I think he would have done even better.
So are there tips that you would give people in terms of how they can start to take off some of these masks? And you and I have talked about, I think in most cultures, talking about soul or spirit is like taboo. And I'm a big believer that, the more we are ourselves, that the more we're giving permission to others around us to be themselves. So as you think about, the art of project management and the people that you've worked with, what advice would you give people that, want to make a difference, who want to be better at what they're doing, and how they're collaborating and the roles they're playing in their organizations?
Yeah, that one we could talk about for days, right? Well, I know you tracked a lot of leaders. So I have a little story with this one, I guess. When I was in that company that I was walking toward to, I was leading a team of project managers who were awesome. Every single one of them was awesome. And I did try my best to tell everyone outside of that group that we did not, and I had to tell people over and over and over again and try to convince them that we did not want them all to be the same. That yes, they should all be doing the science the same. Yes, that's true. There's a beginning, a middle, and an end to projects, and you do them, you execute on that science correctly. But each one of those people had their own leadership style. Mm-hmm. And I needed that. We needed that because every project sponsor, every executive that was sponsoring a project, had a different style and had different needs and had a different business situation. And we needed to match the right project management leadership style to that person so that they would feel like they got the right fit, because a lot of, in business and everywhere, there's a lot about relationships and trust and, having that fit happen. And so not everybody understood that, but I had to give that speech 1,000 times. And I had to tell all the project managers, you do you be you find your leadership style. You're doing it. Just do that, right? Don't fight your leadership style. Just do it. And I'll do my best to match you and your style with the right projects. And it doesn't always work out, but most of the time it did magically. And so my only advice is, to the extent that you can influence and encourage your organization to embrace, the leadership style and the style of a person, and find the goodness in that and not try to beat them into a box, you're going to get more out of folks, right? And it's going to work better. Nobody wants to be somebody they're not. No one.
Yes. And I love that you're bringing that up, because, there's so many studies out there now of employees not being happy at work. I mean, the percentage is, I think it's like, there's only 30% of employees engaged in some of the studies that I've seen. Gallup has done some studies. That's a really low number, which means a lot of those other people are looking for jobs. And many times it's because they feel they're not being appreciated. They can't be themselves, right? The culture has a lot to do with it, the leadership of the organization. And so I'm a big believer in that as well, that the more we can be ourselves, the happier we're going to be, and the more productivity and collaboration and teamwork is going to occur naturally when you do that, and really appreciate the gifts that each of you have on the team. So I love that you're bringing that forward, because that's really important. And that, although consciously we may not know this, it is a way of your soul working through you, right? When you are yourself and allowing that part of you to work through you, it just is very magical. That is the art around all of this for many different roles and jobs that happen in corporate America. So if people wanted to connect more with you and know more about what you do, where would they go to do that?
Well, since we're on Facebook, I'll mention, I think you put it, tagged me in in your post there, but we're at PMO, so that's Project Management Office. It stands for Project Management Office. PMO Tiger on both Facebook and Twitter, PMO Tiger. And I'm definitely on LinkedIn. You can search for us at pmotraining.com on LinkedIn. Check out our new website. Tell us what you think. Follow us there. Connect with me. There are like 8 Dawn Mahans, believe it or not, on LinkedIn, but I somehow snagged the one without any numbers or anything. So just /Dawn Mahan on LinkedIn.
Awesome. And I'll put your website and all that underneath the video when we're done here. Any last words that you want to share with the audience?
Well, if you haven't bought Eileen's book yet, buy it. It really was a journey of transformation. I read every single word, went through every meditation, did all of it, and was wonderful. So I don't know that you expect me to plug your book, but I really believe in it. It was wonderful. So definitely buy her book.
Thank you. And definitely, if you're interested in having some amazing help with project management, Dawn's the person in her team to help you. And I've been fortunate enough to know her, I think, since like 2005. And it's been an amazing journey together. And thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and just want to remind everybody that you are loved and you are loved. And I will put Dawn's information under the video. And you can join us next week on Monday. There will be a different time, but we have someone who's going to be Patricia Cairns, who's going to be channeling Mary Magdalene. So I look forward to having you all on. Bye, Dawn.
Bye,
Have fun in Dallas.
Thank you.
All
Bye.
right. Bye.